All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today is 9/11 and 9/11 day we shall never forget. I know a lot of people today have memories of what happened on 9/11, and this morning, we're starting this a little bit late because this morning the city of Aurora had their annual 9/11 Remembrance Day. So that it happens every year. I've been going every year pretty much when I was an alderman. It rotates from the downtown fire department to the police department every other year. So last year it was at the police department. This year it was at the fire department, and it worked out really well. It was inside the fire department this year because of the rain, but overall it was an amazing ceremony and gave tribute to really the men and women, our first responders, the firefighters and the police officers that responded on that day on 9/11 with the attack of the Twin Towers, the act of terrorism that the whole country witnessed on our televisions. And from Aurora, there were 6 fire department members, 6 firemen. 2 New York assisted as needed. So mutual aid was given, and we remembered those 6 officers, the firefighters, today. And unfortunately, one had passed away last year. So, but they will forever be in the history books as, answering the call, along with 9/11. After that, the war on terror, and hundreds, thousands of individuals signed up, served our armed forces, and we pay tribute to them every day as well. My generation of veteran was pre 9/11, so our post 9/11 veterans we honor and thank today as well. So great ceremony. Not live streamed. Normally the city of Aurora live streams these events, but today it was not because of the acoustics, and it was inside the firehouse, so it was not live streamed. But definitely we want to make sure that not only today, but every day, that we thank the first responders, our police and fire, our military, and all those that keep our country, keep our communities safe. So definitely today was a day for that, but should be every day. So with that, of course, our mug today, it's a USA mug. And one of the speakers, the fire chief, was talking about how our country came together after 9/11, how there was patriotism and people were genuinely friendly to one another. They really had a pride of community, pride of country. And today it was, talked about how we seem to sometimes miss that post 9/11 feeling of community, of country, of really being there for each other. And so definitely the remarks today was amazing and thoughtful and insightful, and just words we should live by virtually every day. So again, I can't say enough, and I'm sure I'm repeating myself. We have to repeat that we thank and continue to honor the first responders, the individuals that are serving in our military, our post 9/11 veterans that went through so much in Iraq and Afghanistan, and just over there in the sandbox, as we call it. It was quite an experience, and we got to remember that every day, not just 9/11 day. So one of the things that I talk about, and everybody talks about, is where were you on 9/11? I was obviously in Aurora in the house, and I realized that the Twin Towers were going down from the newsreel. Getting ready in the morning, you have the TV on, and I remember the billowing smoke and the visuals from that day. And the thing that always stands out at me is that almost a year and a couple months before, I was actually in in the World Trade Center in Tower number 2 with Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter. I'd spent several weeks there for training, and I was just there. And so it's almost surreal, and of course to many people incomprehensible that that they were struck, that they're down, they're no longer with us today, and all the lives that were lost, and the brave, again, men and women of the first responders, the New York City first responders that were there, that were helping out and doing the best they can in such a terrible, terrible situation. Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter lost 8 lives, and they evacuated right away. What I was told when we were there is that the Port Authority wanted everybody in the second tower to stand fast, and the security of Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, made the decision to evacuate right away and not to stand fast. And so they evacuated right away. And unfortunately, that security detail that saved all those lives stayed behind and did not make it out. So there were heroic moments from individuals inside the tower, our first responders getting into the tower, working to make sure that they saved as many lives as possible. So again, today's 9/11, never forget, always remember. And, it was quite an act of terrorism, but we're still standing. Our democracy is resilient, and, our values are still here. Our freedoms are still here, and we withstood that attack. And, I expect that we will continue to withstand and persevere in the decades to come beyond my time. So with that, we can go on. Not much in Springfield. We had Labor Day. I talked about Labor Day last Facebook Live, the importance of Labor Day. And I hope that everybody had a safe and enjoyable Labor weekend. I do want the JCs and the last fling in Naperville, they honored our veterans on Monday, and really appreciated that. I was there with World War II veteran Dick Miller. He's now dubbed the Singing Sailor because they bring him on stage and he sings a patriotic song for everybody. So at the last fling, he led the Pledge of Allegiance. So Dick Miller, 97 years young, World War II veteran. He survived the sinking of the USS Drexler. So definitely a hero in all rights. And he recounts his time in sea. If you haven't heard his story, I encourage you to try to talk to him. The American is having their annual golf outing next week on the 21st. And it's expected that Dick Miller is going to be there. So post84.com is their website. And if you want to hang out with Dick Miller and definitely spend time listening to his story, it would be well worth it. Time well spent. So with that, also, I had to talk about another wonderful veteran is Helen Ehlers. Now, Helen does not live in the Aurora area. She actually lives in Wheaton. And Helen made instrument panels for the Corsair planes when they were used in World War II. And Helen had a birthday on Saturday, so I was able to participate with Helen. She was 100 years young. So Helen, of course, has wonderful stories of being on the assembly line and answering the call for her country when they needed it. And she was not recognized as a veteran until the Women Integration Act was signed about, I do believe, in 1943. I don't have it in front of me, but it was in the 40s. And definitely, she is a veteran as well. World War II veteran, played her part, is an amazing woman, 100 years young, living in Wheaton. Blessed to be able to spend time with her this weekend, and again, her family. And I really, the crowd that was at Helen's birthday party, and she was a trooper. She welcomed everybody and was smiling ear to ear the whole time. Helen was joined by Mary Roja, is a World War II/Korean veteran, and she is 96 years young. And Mary and her daughter made the trip to visit Helen and Wheaton as well. So it was just a wonderful weekend that I had, and I hope everybody had a great weekend. The weekend concluded the Sandwich Fair, which I always intend to go to the Sandwich Fair. And believe it or not, I've only been once. I put it on my calendar. Life after Labor Day is really busy sometimes, and I never make it. And Sandwich Fair closed, and again, I didn't make it this year. But one of these days, one of these years, I'm going to make it to the Sandwich Fair and definitely enjoy all the festivities. But if you did make it to the Sandwich Fair, I hope you enjoyed your time there as well. So good morning, Roger, and good morning, Bonnie. Thank you guys for coming in and zooming in this late time. I apologize. But again, I was in downtown Aurora for the annual 9/11 memorial ceremony, thanking our first responders of the Aurora Fire Department and the Aurora Police Department for all they do to keep our community safe and harm's way a lot. So we definitely need to make sure that we recognize them. So, and then the news, I know that this isn't like state news, but we lost Bob Barker, who really was a staple of my childhood. We have Bob Barker, the Price is Right. And then Jimmy Buffett passed away as well. So, a couple individuals there from my childhood and our history that passed away. Jimmy Buffett passed away from a rare type of skin cancer. So now that we're winding down summer, of course, you always have to look out for anything and everything looks peculiar or abnormal in your skin, gets checked out right away, and definitely make sure that you get proper attention with that. But Jimmy Buffett and Bob Barker, they're staples of, I know, my childhood, my past, and I know a lot of people were really, really saddened, and we wish them, their families and all who love them throughout, prayers for them, and during these times of passing. I know it's really difficult. So that's a little bit of the we have right now. We had talked a little bit about the vetoes that the governors vetoed, a couple of them. Most notable is the a bill that for Ameren, Illinois, the right of first refusal for transmission line construction. So it just means that they get offered the right to bid on this first, and then others can bid on it secondly. And then the second one was lifting the state's moratorium on building new nuclear plants. Those two were vetoed, as well as some line item vetoes. And the difference between a full veto is the whole bill got vetoed versus a line item veto, where a line here and there, the governor was able to pick what lines that he wanted to strike from the bill. So definitely, those are two bills that we are still looking at. And of course, these bills weren't my bills. So each bill in Springfield is directed by the lead sponsor of the bill. So if you look at it as like a car, the driver of the car is the lead sponsor of the bill. So whatever is going to happen to these bills rests with the lead sponsor. They can file a slip to override the veto. They can file a slip to accept the veto, or they can do nothing and the bill dies. So there's several options that we'll be looking at. Of these bills would be looking at for veto session. Veto session is towards the end of October, and then a week in November. So there's a little bit of time, but September's going to fly by really fast, and October's going to be here before we even know it. So definitely that's a big issue. One of the things that I know the state is working with the city of Chicago are asylum seekers. We are getting updates on those. housing for the asylum seekers, they're looking at another 150. So since August of 2022, more than 13,500 asylum seekers city. Right now, about 6,700 of them have been provided housing at the 16 city-run shelters. 1,600 are still sleeping in police stations. 400 are at O'Hare Airport. So it's still quite a situation that Chicago is dealing with. And, from the state level, we want to make sure we can be as helpful as possible. I know the governor is working with the new mayor, Brandon Johnson, with regards to that. So a lot of things that are going on with regards to that situation, but we keep abreast of those. And if need be, you have to trust in our government. The executive is working with the executive branch city with regards to that. A couple things. There's a new law we talked about before, the new law that is similar to child actor laws. So you have now, with the internet, where we're at today, right now, influencers, children on social media, they are getting revenue from their social media accounts. And we passed a law that says that if the child earns the money, that it really is the child's money. So, and that the parents can't take it and use it for whatever they choose to, that the child is earning money and the money needs to be set aside for the. So we had to pass a law with regards to that. Again, it's similar to laws that were passed for child actors when they made money in movies and commercials and TV shows. So now that we have a different medium, we had to update our laws to reflect that. So that went into effect. And then we are looking at laws that that we passed, but doesn't always get implemented. So the system, and I realize that folks and myself, and we work really hard to pass good laws. Sometimes there's deficiencies. Sometimes departments don't really administer the laws the way we would hope they would, or they're behind at administering the law. So is from the General Assembly point of view, because we have the three branches of government, the legislature, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. When we pass the laws, it's presumed that the executive branch will follow the law. If a department head, or if something were not to be following the law, then the recourse is the judicial branch. So what the legislature could pass additional laws, but the legislature is not technically the enforcement arm of our three-branch system. The judicial system interprets the law and it provides justice for the laws. So that's pretty much the system that we. So a bit ago, we passed a law that stated that if there are dying and severely disabled individuals in prison, that there should be a medical release function. They're no longer a threat to society. They're deemed, terminally ill, medically incapacitated, and it was dubbed the Joe Coleman Medical Release Act. So what we were looking at was twofold. This bill was a way to alleviate pretty much the state's prison healthcare system, which really is not the best place for individuals that are terminally ill or that are chronically ill. Joe Coleman was a decorated Army veteran, and he died of prostate cancer while he was incarcerated. And what we did is under this act, we passed prisoners can request early release if they're terminally ill and expected to die within 18 months, or if they're medically incapacitated and need help with more than one daily living activity, such as eating or using the bathroom. So you think, well, what would happen when they get released from prison? Well, they would get released from prison and they qualify under Medicare or Medicaid, and they can get a better care in the of life, and it's a win-win because the prisons are not set up to be able to care for these type of illnesses. So what we found is that the board, now there is a prison review board. It's the state body. It's appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Illinois Senate. And this prison review board has the final say on medical release requests. And current review of this showed that nearly 2/3 of medical release requests from dying and disabled prisoners who met the medical criteria were denied. So it out under the Clinton Act. And so they got individuals that couldn't talk, couldn't walk. They're upwards in age, 81-year-old who had been incarcerated for 3 decades, died. So it's something to look at because the prison system's overburdened with individuals. And these individuals who are incapacitated, who are ill, who aren't expected to live more than 18 months, they're really expensive to care for, and they have zero risk to public safety. And to be budget conscious, then this is the best way to go because it'll save us money from the government perspective. And, overall, since the individuals are no longer a threat to society, it really is the right thing to do. To release them because of this medical necessity. So other than that, so this law is being reviewed by individuals, not my committee, but it's being reviewed by individuals in the General Assembly to look at why the law is not being followed properly. One of the factors is unfortunately, different political viewpoints with regards to whether one side or the other, regardless of the spectrum, believe that it's correct or not, that these people should stay in jail their whole life and die, even if they're terminally ill and they can't talk and they can't walk and they should just die in prison. Another segment on the other side of the aisle thinks that, they've done their time. They're no longer a threat to society. It's a cheaper alternative. And so there's that discussion with regards to it as well. So we have individuals that are 80 years old that are just incapacitated and really it's quite a dilemma. But again, this is where we look at the laws, we pass the laws, the judges interpret the law, the executive branch can execute the law as well. So those are some of the things that come across my desk. Again, it's not my committee, but those are some of the things that go across my desk that we look at with regards to the role of the legislature and how we can work with the General Assembly, with the executive branch, and with the judicial branch. So else is going on in this. So I talked about the vetoes, and then here we have a couple other good newses. So we have some economic development coming out. So where we are looking at really, so we have we've talked about this before, and we have electric vehicles, and everybody talks about battery storage and electric vehicles. So we just landed a major electric vehicle battery manufacturer. So definitely this is great news. It was announced on Friday that the electric vehicle industry confirmed that Groton, and they are a Chinese battery maker. They had earlier announced plans to open a plant in Michigan. However, they decided on Manteno in Kankakee County for a second facility. They're going to invest about $2 billion. So what the state does is they put together an economic development package. These are things that similarly happen on the local level. So most of the time when we're going to bring in these big companies, the state works with the local governments and puts together a package, an incentive package to bringing in these businesses. So the state has given about $200 million in payroll tax credits. Now, this is going to be paid over 30 years, so it's not like one big chunk. So they have to commit to being here long term. So this is a 30-year commitment. They have agreed to meet hiring goals of 2,600 full-time jobs and pay at least 120% of the average wage of similar jobs in Kankakee County, which would put starting salaries at about $55,000 a year. They also plan to invest, as I said, about $2 billion into the area and into the infrastructure. They're also going to receive about $25 million in capital fund, and that is going to finance a new job training academy nearby to prepare workers for the plants. Now, those of you who are up to date with my emails know that just a couple of weeks ago, I went and visited the electronic vehicle bus manufacturer, so Lion. And so they partnered with Joliet Junior College to create a job plan, a job training program with regards to ensuring that they have hands-on training with the students at Joliet Junior College. And here is type of agreement. So the state's going to work with them for a new job training academy in electric vehicles. So local property taxes and it's a vacant site, will double to just under $2 million a year, but then will be capped at that level for 30 years. So it's not necessarily a TIF district where the TIF district freezes the property taxes at the vacant land level, and then any growth would go to the developer. Growth in property taxes go directly back to the developer. In this scenario, they're keeping in mind property taxes. So they're looking that the property taxes are going to double, and they're going to be just under $2 million a year. And cap it at that $2 million a year. So the taxing bodies will get double what they're getting now instead of nothing more than they're getting now. So double what they're getting now, and then they're going to cap it after that, which is a much better program, and really makes a whole bunch of sense. And that's going to go on for 30 years. So we're getting at least a 30-year commitment out of this this plan. And so what we did is several years ago, we passed the REV Illinois Reimagining Energy and Vehicle Act. And this allowed us to put together this package through a group called Invest in Illinois. So Invest in Illinois was created years ago as a public-private partnership for economic development state and with private entities. So it's almost a go-between. We still have our Department of Commerce and Economic Development in-house in the state, but Invest Illinois is a public-private partnership where we can start really working at these kind of issues. Now, obviously, when we're looking at property taxes and we're looking at the south suburbs and Kankakee and these areas, commercial development really helps offset property taxes on individual houses. So one of the things to help with property taxes is economic development programs and smart economic development programs, such as what we see here, where they're not completely growth in property taxes. They're allowing some growth in property taxes, but then capping that down the road. So it's a very good program, and we're really excited about them coming into the state and really getting some jobs going. And that's the biggest thing that we can do. Now, talking about jobs, now we're worldwide. Commerce is so very important. And so what we're looking at as well is our delegations going as the state, delegations go countries. And one of the delegations that left was led by Lieutenant Governor Julia Stratton. And so she went with the Illinois delegations to Japan. As you know, you may not know, I'm a little bit familiar with Japan. I lived in Okinawa for a year and my son's there. So I was just visiting Japan on a private trip to visit him earlier this year, and will most likely next year go back to visit him again. But she led a delegation. And so what they have is this is the 53rd annual joint meeting of the Midwest US Japan. And so it's the Japan Midwest US Association's conference. It was in Tokyo. And so we talk about economic development and individuals throughout, so that how Japan and Midwest US states can work together. So Illinois is looking at as becoming a leader with regards to corporate recruitment, retention, and expansion. And what we have is an Illinois Foreign Direct Investment fund and programming. And again, we are one of the things is that our budget has been solid. Our credit upgrades have been 8 to date, and we have money in the bank and things are going good financially. And businesses look at that. They look at that stability in the state that we have, in addition to incentive packages. One of the things that is about Japan that you might not know is Japan is one of Illinois' largest trading partners. So we already have a significant relationship there with economic developments. And so, one of the things that we're looking at, of course, is how can we strengthen that and expand it. One of the things that makes Illinois stand out is that Illinois has reached, again, and I'm repeating myself, I know I am, $1 trillion in GDP for the first time in 2022. So $1 trillion. And Illinois is home to more than 30 Fortune 500 headquarters. So, and you hear people talk negatively, I don't think that they are seeing the whole picture. They're looking at just a small subsection of something they saw on the internet or some snippet that might have been adjusted or misleading or really not quite true. So if you look at the trade between Japan and Illinois, it has totaled more than $11 billion in 2022. Illinois exports to Japan exceeds more than $2 billion. So the state is also second in the nation for corporate investment and number one for workforce development. And that was by Site Selection Magazine. So really, when you look at the whole package of Illinois and look at it through just clear lens that is not biased. Illinois, we have infrastructure, we have education, we have access to capital, the cost of living, that is ranked by the top 10 annually for top states for business rankings. So again, this is what Illinois is striving for, is to ensure that we have really a strong foundation so that these things can come together. And so Lieutenant Governor really led the delegation. A lot of individuals from the Office of the Governor, DCEO individuals in the delegation, Dan Seals, Chief Executive Illinois, again, that public-private partnership talking about. Invest in Illinois works under an Intersect Illinois. Illinois retailers were represented, the Manufacturers Association, and the Springfield Sangamon Growth for Alliance was represented. So definitely, things are going in the right direction with the state. A lot of people want to continue to say that it's not, but really the proof's in the pudding. So these are facts, and I really encourage you to look at the facts before you look at these other snippets of information and things that is misinformation, disinformation. Everybody, some people talk about clickbait, but it's still out there. So definitely be careful what you read, and make sure that you look at everything online and research it all. Also, Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO, celebrated a groundbreaking of Incobrasa Industries Ltd. They expanded their manufacturing facility. The expansion represents more than $250 million in capital investment, will create 40 new full-time jobs while retaining 200 jobs. And they are in Gilman. So Gilman, Illinois, and definitely the company is going to more than double its production capacity by 2030. So what do? They are the industry leader in soybean processing. And they had a manufacturing presence in Illinois since 1997. So they're going to construct a new soybean crushing facility, adding 170,000 square feet of the production. So we went from both spectrums here. This is the economic landscape of Illinois. We went from electric vehicles and batteries to soybean crushing, because we are an agricultural state. And definitely that is really, really important, that our state is multifaceted and is for all that we are able to have so much diversity in our economic base. And that is, I think, what is the strength of Illinois. And I'm certainly not making that up again. Look at the facts and look at all that we've done. Look at the direction Illinois is going. If you're going, people rightfully criticized Illinois when they were going down, and now those people should turn around and start complimenting Illinois now that we are going up and things are getting better. So that's really, really just what I believe in. So if you're just changing subjects here, if you get the Chicago Tribune, check out the story that they have today. The National Park Service Network to Freedom lists 25 Illinois sites, and even more communities can be identified as places with freedom seekers movement in northeastern Illinois. And I know that when I was growing up in Wheaton, that there were some sites that we were told that were in the Underground Railroad. And so one of the things that is really interesting is that to look into are these sites, and to check out the Chicago Tribune's article with regards to the Underground Railroad. If you haven't, something that really, it's just to me, I'm almost beyond words, because it's just so profound, and the role that our area that up here that we played in the Underground Railroad is really, really amazing. And for freedom seekers and the freedom seeker movement here in northern Illinois, so northeastern Illinois. So check it out. It's a great read. In addition to that, I got nothing new on the Bears talk. It's all talk. They're just still mulling over all the options that they have. I'm not even going to talk about the Bears game, because I don't want to ruin anybody's morning, because it ruined everybody's Sunday. So hopefully the Bears on one game. It was the first game of the season, so we're not going to rush to judgment. There were, I'll be polite and say a couple errors. A couple is maybe an understatement, but it was the first game of the season, so we're not going to judge the first game of the season. Go Bears, and hopefully they will start performing please better than they did yesterday. That's all I'm going to say with regards to that. it's been a couple years in the making, but those who want to venture into Chicago, Chicago's first casino opens temporarily in the Temple. So Bally's is open. They are the first Chicago casino. It's taken a while to get to that point, but definitely that is something on the state level that we are watching, and we are looking to see how it performs, where individuals that are going to go there come from. Are they going to come from the suburbs? That affects us a little bit. The thought process is they're mostly going to come from the city. Obviously, the city has a population of 3 million. Cook County has a population of 6 million. So we're looking to, if individuals want to go and enjoy their time and they would like to go there, that is open for business now. So it's going to be, again, hopefully it will, individuals will go if they choose so, and enjoy and have a good time at that event or at that place. So we are already looking at, and transit is always on the line. Chicago area transit, we are looking at a panel of recommendations for the future of transit. The Red Line, they get the extension of nearly $2 billion from the federal government. I've said this before, I'll say this again. Illinois is working really well with the federal government, and we were able to secure $2 billion for the Red Line extension. Of that, we are looking at just in general, still pensions committee are going throughout the summer. We've had multiple pensions committee, and I know pensions doesn't always sounds like the most exciting subject matter, but it is something that really does affect the state of Illinois. And we've had several committee meetings, and they are live streamed online with ilga.gov. And certainly that's something that you can all tune in on. We're going to schedule our next committee meeting September. And one of the things that has been brought out, and just for clarification, is the fact that, and this is with pensions, and it's the fact that there is this mindset that the current pensions are not sustainable. So if you retire today, your pensions are sustainable. So there's two things that when talking with pensions, and I don't want to get into a big policy discussion here because it is a complex subject. And if people give you a simple solution for a complex subject, they're most likely lying to you, or they don't know what they're talking about. But we have two costs when it comes. We have the normal costs, which is the cost of who are retiring, who will retire in the next couple years. That cost the state affords quite easily. To be quite honest, it's fairly low. Every employee that pays into the pension system that's not coordinated with Social Security, they only get their pension system, and they pay about 12% of their pay into this pension system. So the employees are paying into this pension system. It's not a free give me. The employees are paying into the pension system for the benefits that they get. So retirees will maintain their pension systems. The state can afford to maintain their pension systems. Now, on top of that is what's called the unfunded liability. And this has happened because has not paid payments that they're supposed to make. They shifted money to other things. They took a 10-year holiday. They shorted, Springfield Math, you name it, they've done it. So it's similar to if you only pay the minimum amount of money on your credit card, that unfunded liability, which is on your credit card, is going to continue to grow because of interest and because of obligations. So that is the number that we are looking at. Now, the second part of the pension dialogue and situation is employees. The Tier 2 pension system is a woefully inadequate retirement plan. It was done, and we had testimony. It was done before my time, and apparently it was passed without any actuarial numbers or input. Now, we have had about 10 to 15 subject matter hearings on pensions, so nobody can say there was no input. Nobody can say it was rushed. We've been working on this since January, almost over a half a year, 3/4 of a year. We're going to be working on this subject, actuarial studies, expert testimony. And so the tier 2 was done in a matter of a day before my time, before a lot of time. I think there's only 8 individuals in the Illinois House left today who were there when the tier 2 pension system passed. It's passed one day in the House, passed the second day in the Senate, signed by the governor in less than, from what I'm told, less than, a day or two. It was not well thought out. So what we are having, just for the quick summary, is the tier 2 criteria is individuals have to work 10 years and turn 67 to be able to retire. Now, a lot of individuals, and we've had expert testimony, are looking at that, and looking at, well, I can draw Social Security at 65. Keep in mind, you don't get Social Security if you're paying into a non-coordinated fund, which is our pension system. And then they're looking at, I could retire early without a penalty, and my 401k, and there's other factors that go involved. Even though people love teaching or they love their state job, other factors are involved in those decision making. So we are not getting employees like we should. We have thousands of unfilled positions in our state government, in our teachers. I was just talking again this morning to an individual with the Aurora Fire Department, talking about how it's hard to attract individuals to fire departments and police departments. And part of that is that retirement package. So right now, our tier 2, as was testified at committee last week, is viewed as insufficient, immoral. It's not benefiting of making sure that our employees are taken care of the way that we should as a state, as an employer. And so there's testimony with regards to how the tier 2 is fundamentally unfair and does not provide retirement security, and is really hampering us when it comes to getting good employees too. So there's 2 facets, multiple, and there's more facets than that, but those are the two main facets that we're looking at is with regards to pensions. Now, again, and I've mentioned this before in the past, it bears repeating. The other is because they don't correlate with Social Security, we are mandated by federal law to be equal to or more generous than Social Security. And we've had expert testimony that shows that we failed these portions of that as well. So we're failing the employee because the benefits just do not provide adequate retirement security. We're failing on the federal law with regards to Social Security. And so we have a lot of inner workings here that we need to work at. Tier 1 is about 50% of the workforce in some situations, and tier 2 is 50% of the workforce. So right now we're about half and half. And if we start failing with regards to safe harbor, then that's a whole at least an additional 12% on top of the payment that we have right now, which is roughly a little under $10 billion. So 12% increase in that $10 billion mark is a big thing. So to be fiscally responsible, we need to make sure that we try to fix that now. It's going to still cost, but it won't cost as much as it will as we continue to kick the can down the road. So that's what I've been focusing on with regards to pensions as well, with regards to this time that we're not in Springfield. So I just wanted to give you a bit of an update with regards to what I've been working on. If you think that just because we're not in Springfield, we're not doing much, that's not technically true. In fact, we're trying to schedule towards the end of this month another committee meeting, and we're coming up against, because in Chicago we only have one committee room then it's getting to be a little bit difficult with regards to scheduling, and with regards to scheduling members to come into Chicago to actually work the committee. So there's other committees that want to meet as well. So we're going to work it out, and I think we're doing some really good work. And as I said, it's all live stream, so you can keep up to date with regards to what we are doing with regards to pensions. If you do so feel the need to zoom in and listen to what we are talking about as well. With that, again, like I said, other committees are meeting as well. I'm not a part of those committees, but they are scheduled on ilga.gov, and you can look at committees and which committees are coming up. I think healthcare licensing is coming up, ethics, elections and ethics is trying to meet again this month as well. So certainly that is, if those are within your purview and you'd like to tune in, definitely that's ilga.gov is the website in which you can go to, and then you can go to committees, and then you can scroll down and see which committee. Now, lastly, what we're looking at is, again, and I've talked about this again, but it bears repeating. I know that I do repeat myself, but these are subjects that routinely come up because, again, complex subjects don't have simple solutions, but we are looking at running out of water. And I've talked about this before. The suburbs are tapped mostly in a very large aquifer, and they test the salt content of the aquifer. So just like if you have a large amount of water, the salt content will be diluted, but as the water evaporates, then the salt. And then, as you know, if you leave a pot of water for way too long and nothing is left but the minerals. Not that I've done that, which I actually have once or twice, but way not now. But when I was younger, in my 20s, that happened a couple times. But when we're looking at water, you have the rivers. So you have like the Des Plaines River, we have the Fox River, but we are looking at a water shortage. And so really, when we're looking at Will County, Joliet, out in this area, they have been in a sandstone aquifer, and they're on the verge of exhaustion around water supply, and it's a huge issue. So Joliet's the third largest city, I believe, and then 5 neighboring communities, of which Oswego is one of them. And the aquifers, you can't drill anymore because the water is too salty, it's too shallow, it can get contamination from runoff for road salts and pesticides, and so the sandstone aquifer is drying up, and it looks like it's going to be in significantly less than a decade. And so what has been talking about, what's come across my desk and I've been updated on, are these communities are looking to buy Chicago, treated water from Chicago, and use Lake Michigan as a source. And they are looking at putting in maybe 65 miles of pipeline. And so it's in the design phase. It's going to be like a $1.4 billion project. Now, hopefully, again, we talk about working with the federal government. Hopefully the federal government will help contribute to this project. It's the largest public work investment when you're looking at Joliet's history in Joliet's, and they are looking to break ground next year to be completed by 2030. So keep in mind that we're breaking ground next year in 2024. It's supposed to be completed by 2030. They have years or less of water. It's really cutting it close. So water just can't be taken for granted. I know that, here in the US, now when you go to other countries, it's not always, water isn't always that secure. But here, you turn on the faucet and water comes out. You have water all around us. It's not something that's on people's mind. It's not something that people even think about. Obviously, now we have to think about it because there's a crisis, and hopefully the project will be completed before the aquifer runs out. And what's happening too, and so you have dry land in Arizona, California. Groundwater depletion is really national, and it's causing a regional emergency. We can't have food production without water, housing, economic development, and the over extraction of easily accessible groundwater is really, we all have to look at it here in Illinois and elsewhere with regards to water limits. Another thing that's a secondary issue is when these aquifers, when you take the water out of these aquifers, we've been seeing, not so much in our area, but we've been seeing, the ground collapse because there's nothing there to keep that structure anymore. So that's something that needs considered as well. But, we have for a long time not looked at like water recycling as much as we could, leak detection, looking as other countries have done, which is gray water construction. So things like that, really should be looking about. And then we're looking in other areas like West Michigan. They temporarily froze new housing in recent years when the wells went dry. So you can't put in any more wells. And they're close to Lake Michigan as well. And so they're looking at alternate supply options. So it's not just Illinois, it's also Michigan. In 2008, Michigan began requiring farmers to register and capable of pumping at least 100,000 gallons a day. And they were looking at that. Minnesota, Wisconsin, high capacity irrigation wells have depleted their shallow sand aquifers. And they're also looking at nitrate contamination of groundwater from farm counties and large manure producing feedlots. So that's really important to keep in mind as well. So in our area, they've been talking about this literally from 2018 or before that. I've been talking about this for many years in the Aurora area. And, the Kankakee rivers are not found suitable. Lake Michigan intake across the state line in Indiana wouldn't have worked either. Indiana might have been closer than Chicago. So at the end, Chicago emerged as the top option. So in this case scenario, and I know that Oswego and Montgomery are looking in other options as well, but in the case that I'm talking about right here, Joliet brought in the communities of Crest Hill, Shanahan, Manuka, Shorewood, and Romeoville. So they are looking at all those. However, as I said, so I have Will County. So that's the Will County portion of the district. We also have Kane County and Kendall counties that also rely on the deep aquifer, and they're facing similar water supply questions. Now, Aurora does draw from the Fox River. They cannot draw enough for all of Aurora from the Fox River. I think 20% of Aurora's water comes from the Fox River. So definitely that is a big issue as well when they're looking at it. Now, in 1967, a U.S. Supreme Court capped Illinois' Lake Michigan withdrawals. Back then, Joliet and all of us here are located outside the basin. They couldn't return their wastewater to the Great Lakes system, and it caused a bit of a dilemma. So what they're looking at is a wastewater recycling system. How's that going to look? How are they going to source it? Right now in Chicago, it's the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. That's the regional wastewater utility for up there. There are some dual systems that they're looking at that would deliver recycled water alongside fresh drinking water to put the clean water back into Lake Michigan, so that they can reuse and conserve and use this new technology. However, this dual system might not work with the pipeline coming out of Joliet, because it's already set to go next year. So it's a big issue. I can't overstate it. It's a really big that affects our, and I know not a lot of people want to think about it when, but there's a reason why, we're asking people not to water during the drought and those kinds of situations, because water is a big issue. And I've talked about it in the past, and it'll probably come across my desk again. So with that joyful note, there's a lot of things that come across the desk of a state representative that individuals don't always understand the vast subject matters that representative has to be at least knowledgeable of and know who to go to get more information and to get more of a better word, subject matter experts, because a state representative can't have every single subject matter memorized. We do have our areas of, for lack of a better word, expertise, but you can't have them, you can't be an expert on all of them. And so we do rely on individuals that are very knowledgeable with these subject matters. And so these are things that are coming across my desk. There is a lot more, but I don't want to really take it off. So I will end and say, I hope those that went to the Taste of Chicago this weekend, it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, had a good time. The Taste, it had a lot of great food, and a lot of times as we're winding down summer and looking to fall, I just really hope that everybody has a wonderful week ahead of us. This is just an update of some of the things that, again, I try to just give you a brief snippet of what we are looking at this week from the state of Illinois' perspective, and what comes across my desk. It might not be what other reps are reading, but or looking on. There's a lot of other committees and a lot of other issues that affect the state of Illinois. Finally, if you don't get our email, we try to give you an updated email every week or so on what's going on that might not be covered on this Facebook Live, but definitely you get a great week. Again, be safe. There are still instances of COVID that I've known a couple people that have caught COVID again. But be safe, be careful, as hopefully the weather is going to be changed. I hear this week's going to be wonderful. So if you need anything, my office is available, and feel free to shoot me an email or go to ildistrict84.com, sign up for email distribution that way as well. So have a great week, and we will be back next week on the 18th, next Monday. But again, 9/11, we shall always remember, shall never forget. Today's a day of service. So embrace kindness, do nice for somebody. And again, enjoy the week. Take care, everybody.